Hey guys, it's Lohpally here with another before first fact video, your laning phase guide to playing aggressive in the early game. And today we're going to be going over Rakan. So, in this matchup we're going to be playing Draven Rakan versus Taric and Lucian. So most of this lane is about just playing around stuns and making sure that we bait out stuns before we go in and pressure a lot. Another thing to note too is usually because of Rakan's squishiness, we're going to usually start our W outside of laning Rakan. So for the most part, as you can see right now, we're just taking brush control and making sure that we get a little bit of harass. A couple things to note about this game though is as follows. Since the Scuttle Crab iteration, if you are on the red side in this game, which we are, need to be mindful of the fact that a lot of times junglers will do the red, maybe golems, get this Scuttle Crab and potentially pressure you. So you don't want to play too aggressive in the early stages and hard push. Another thing to note too is whenever you're playing in the early game and you get access to the wave first, as you can see right here, I'm just standing a little bit further up just so that I create pressure for the enemy lane so that both players aren't stepping forward and pushing the wave. This is a way to apply pressure without actually needing to hit anything or do anything in your lane, just by standing a little bit more aggressively. Because that also gives me a great angle to hit a Q, as we're mostly just going to be proccing Spell Thieves and trying to get harass off. Especially because of the fact that we're against a melee champion, we opted into Spell Thieves because it's easy for us to proc and I want to play aggressively with the Draven. As you can see, I've just taken the brush and made sure that we're forcing wards out. It's kind of a war of attrition when it comes to most situations, so making sure that you get vision away from your enemy opponents is very helpful. Things to note about this situation is as follows. Remember that our Evelynn has actually started on the bot side, so she's going to take all of these camps. That means that after this gank no longer works, there's not really too much for our enemy Graves to do. This is mostly why I was talking about basically being mindful of the early ganks that can happen and why warding in the early stages is very important. A good thing to note about my Draven is once this Taric starts channeling the stun, it's very obviously he's going to flash and stun. So my Draven does a good job of flashing away. After that, we just take a mental note that the flash on the Taric is down, and he is actually taking Aftershock in this. So if he ever misses his stun, he's incredibly susceptible to being all in. After that, we just level up our W, and since we've hit level 2, I'm just looking up and down to see where the jungler is going and create a little bit of pressure. Because we have our W, we can always jump away, and that's mostly a lot of the primary thing that you want to be doing on Rakan in most situations, and why it's really powerful, especially with Xayah. Most of this late phase, you'll see what I'm doing is playing incredibly aggressively and seeing if the stun is going to hit me from Taric, maybe potentially dodging out, or if the Lucian isn't too close, then we just eat the stun and then we continue to pressure back. Because of the Spell Thieves, my auto attacks and my spells just do an insane amount of damage, so it's really easy for us to do anything. Because we have pressure in the lane and pressure in the brush, I don't have to worry about dodging out for the stun because the Lucian's not going to be able to follow up, so we're just walking back and forth and forcing pressure in this brush. This means that I force the Taric to play back further, and it allows my AD carry to kind of have access to the wave. For the most part, anytime our Q is up, we're just fishing for those just to get a little bit of harass off and keep constantly proccing our Spell Thieves for the quest. Now that we finally hit level 3, this is where the champion mostly comes online, and now I can dash out and away from pressure. So, for the most part, you just see me walking up, auto attack trading, and seeing if a stun comes out. If a stun does come out, I usually want to be trading my E away, but in circumstances where maybe my AD carry is too far away, then we'll use our W in that case. We're slowly just chipping away at the enemy Taric and whoever else we can. Another thing to note too is wards fade out pretty quickly, so just having this pressure is really, really good because they constantly have to commit wards to it. Now things to note basically based on what's going on in the lane, as you can see right here. So primary thing is we're just holding pressure in the lane and trying to bait out the stun. Because of that, the Taric gets frustrated and sees that the Draven is really far away, so he's looking for a stun. I'm mostly playing through the brush because of the fact that I've already forced the ward out and there's no ward in here anymore. Even if they hit the stun, they'll have to usually commit their dashes or something like that to get any damage off. Since the stun misses, this is basically gives us the go-ahead to be really, really aggressive in this lane as they have no kill pressure. So I start walking up immediately and see the AD carry is stepped too far forward and my Draven can actually collapse on it if I hit a W. Because of this, I aim my W in a way that if he jukes forward, he walks into my Draven and gets hit a bunch of times, but if he dashes backwards, I actually cut his way of escape. Because of that, he doesn't end up dashing and then just has to give up his flash and his heal just for my ignite. Plus, now he's pushed under the turret and missing a lot of HP. This is very potent for us, as ignite is on a very short cooldown relative to flash and heal, so we will always have a sums advantage when it comes to any of this. Another thing to note too is his Draven is going to be hitting a lot harder than the Lucian in the early stages, especially because of the pressure that I've been able to create. Now we're just pushing into the turret and making sure that we get any auto attacks off just to get some of the damage on the turret for the plating, plus it gives you Spell Thief stacks. Next thing to note is as you can see right here, the W is gone off from Echo, which is a great roam by him to kind of collapse down here and force a kill. Because of this, we're going to use our flash W immediately just to make sure we guarantee lock them down so they can't reactively dodge this. It's also really good because then we end up forcing a lot of damage on them and guarantee both kills. A lot of this game will be focused a little bit more on what we do with this advantage afterwards. So, as you can see right here, we're just hitting the turret a bunch of times, getting as many of the plates as possible, just to generate a bit of extra gold. Because I actually ended up getting both kills, what I'm going to do is just end up buying Spell Thieves, but also mobility boots. This will allow me to move around the map and use tempo. A lot of people always ask me when are good times to roam. These are circumstances that are as follows. The wave has hit the turret and is now pushing back to us, so because of this time slot, my AD carry can actually catch the wave right here under the turret safely, and I am allowed an opportunity to roam because the mobility boots allow me to move around. I see the Evelynn is going to do a gank right here, so I just wait for the Evelynn to initiate the gank, then we dash off of our teammate, use our W to zone away the enemy player. So, as you can see right here, we're just going to dash onto our teammate. We're going to use our W to block the enemy's way of getting out. This is also why I like to invest a couple of points in Q in the early stages. That way, if you use your W maybe as a zoning tool, or you don't always hit it, or you use it for a gap closer, you can still get a lot of front-loaded damage with your Q, which you can see right here. I get the kill with the Q, and we're able to get out. Thanks to our mobility boots, we're able to just kind of cruise on all the way back down to bottom lane and make sure that we walk down here so that he can catch the wave safely without being worried about dive. After that, we're just kind of back into the lane as normal, and since the stun is missed, we walk up and play aggressively and force out the dash, which just allows us to auto and Q and actually crush them in this situation. Because the AD carry has no sums anymore, and he's already used his dash, it's really easy for our Draven to basically slow him down and kill him across the lane. Another thing to note too is whenever your teammate is DPSing like that, you don't have anything that you can provide. As you saw me right there, I walked up and tanked the turret to provide him with the ability to continue chasing. Unfortunately, got hit by a stun, so that's a no-go in this regard. After that, we're just going to reset again because he doesn't need any help pushing, and we don't really care about platings because our tempo is more important. After that, once again, same situation arises, right? We have the mobility boots, my AD carry is walking back down to lane, and the wave is going to start pushing to him. Especially in situations now, since the buffs to the turret, it's actually substantially more difficult for people to dive, especially with things like Taric, who don't have hard CC that's reliable. It's dodgeable or flashable. Because of that, we're just going to create pressure around mid again. Fortunately for me, I end up walking over here, and we end up being able to counter another play on the enemy player. So, as follows. Walking back mid because we don't need to cover our AD carry anymore once again, and we're going to see that these two players are fighting. I pinked this line brush just to create pressure so that I can see if there's any wards there. I want to know if I'm basically standing on vision or if I'm going to get countered. I don't see that as a circumstance, and so since they're trading, I'm walking up. We're going to immediately dash to our teammate, and we're just going to auto attack. He dashes out, and then we're just going to use our W to clear the distance, use our ignite, and Q, and finish him. Since I can recover most of my HP right here, I also sit here and tank the turret. That way, my teammate doesn't take too much damage from the turret as it does a lot of damage, and he's able to clear out the wave once again. Primary focuses of this lane are as follows. Play aggressively in the early stages, that way you can use your spells to dodge skill shots if they come out. Make sure you're punishing really aggressively when you actually dodge or bait out the skill shots. Also, always actively look for roams around mid, especially when it makes sense in these circumstances where I'm able to get to mid and still come bottom and cover the wave and make sure my Draven doesn't die. These are all positive things. Anyway, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment in the section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm Lohpally. I'll see you next time. Peace.